Alrighty, we're back. So this is going to be the week one and then the beginning of week two kind of update. We've got a couple matches to go over, only three, so shorter video this time around. But we're gonna go over some. This is the schedule and stuff. We're gonna see all the new games that we've kind of missed. Got to go over and see what exactly happened in each of those games. Might also peep the player stats here at the end as well. Uh, just to see how people are doing. All right, without further ado, let's hop into it. Here's the standings so far. The East is still, or the East is still getting throttled by the West pretty handedly, 9-3. Only kind of the top dog teams of the East are winning, and even one of them has a loss. It's kind of crazy that only 3 out of the 11 East teams are still without a loss, which is insane. And then over in the West, you have the complete opposite, which is, yeah, not says a lot about each division. I think personally, we'll see if this holds on or if the East gets better or if it was just rough matchmaking at first. But it does seem like the West is a lot deeper of the division currently. So yeah, let's hop in. We're gonna look at DP Knights 2-0 win over White Lotus Azale. Missing ban in this game was Ari. Okay. All right, let's look at this game first. Pretty convincing 28-minute win, 17-6. Pretty low kill game. Gold is in way in the favor of DPK here. Let's I do want to say that White Lotus Azale had their subs top laner in for this game. So this vexed guy would be Hestika, and Hestika's pretty. I think he's pretty crucial to this team. Almost, he's a really solid top laner. I don't know if he's the difference between having this more of a competitive series. I'm sure it would have helped a little bit, but um, it seemed like every lane was kind of getting um, or at least struggling, not really getting screw over, just struggling, but like a little tiny bit better in this second game. But yeah, I mean, we're just doing Ornn duty the whole time as the replacement, and Ace didn't really care. He just locked in volley and ran over some turrets. I did catch a little bit of that live stream. I tuned in when Ace 1v2'd at the top lane. I think it was in this game right here. The Zinzao at the Ornn, he like 1v2'd them, and I was pretty crazy. So yeah, we'll go over this first game first. Um, so the bans we see coming out of DPK was Fizz, Lulu, and Casio. I'm not really sure why we're banning Fizz. I don't even think Ray really plays Fizz. At least this wasn't something that was commonly banned against him last season. I don't really see it on his account this season. It's a bit of a weird one for me. Did we do that in the second game? Yeah, they ran it back in the second game. So I think it's a bit of a wasted ban right there. I don't think this is something feasibly playable in comp, and also Fizz is in a pretty weaker spot in solo queue as well. Definitely feeling it this season for no reason. I'm sure there's reasons, but yeah, I'm glad he's out of the meta, honestly. But um, anyways, Lulu, great ban. Casio, not really something I see Ray again playing, but I think what is the thought process here was I think Spartan and Renegade they share a champ pool pretty close together. Like I think they play the Victor, they play the Ori both as like some of their top played champs, and then like Hui and stuff. So it looks like they just really wanted to get rid of the stuff that would go well into that kind of champ pool, and they just kind of hand shook that they were just going to take like mages and stuff, these control mages that they both play, and see who was better. A little weird, but yeah, I don't really love two of the three bands really here. Let's go check in on Azale. So Zale had Caitlyn, Vi, and Syndra bans. I like those three honestly. I don't. Jimmy's not too much of a Vi player, but maybe that's kind of changed this season in solo queue. He is more of a tank jungler, in my experience with him. More often than not. So kind of another one that's a little bit wasted. The Caitlyn's a pretty good band though. I know that's one of Lurka's more played ADCs. And then the Syndra. Oh, obviously Syndra can go blind. It's kind of so Spartan has, it seems, two control mage mid picks that he can kind of go to between Syndra and Victor that teams are gonna have to be scared of here. And yeah, that seems kind of what was happening in this week one. But yeah, so that looks like DPK just kind of ran this game over after a certain point. But yeah, Soraka and Gwen, and then we have Cassante and Aatrox bands. Pretty good targeting Ace here. He did pull out this Volibear. I haven't really seen Ace really play Volibear, so this is something new out of the pocket of Ace, and it looked like it went really well. Obviously, ran it back in the second game. They ran these three picks exactly back, honestly, and the picks that they supplemented in. So like we have Karma in this first game, and then Lux in the second game. Pretty similar-ish styled of champs there, like kind of just a pressuring in lane mage, not a mage, but like you know what I mean, with Lux and Karma. Hard to describe, but yeah. Then we ran it back with like a utility tank jungler. So kind of they played really their style in this game, and it went really well here. So yeah, this first game, banning Gwen, Soraka, good bands. Yeah, okay. Looks like more of not necessarily draft really mattering in this game, in my opinion, but more so execution and in laning is what it looked like. So yeah, let's go look at the second game. Obviously, they ran it. DPK ran it back pretty good here. It looks like they tried to do pretty similar style thing in the second game as well for White Lotus Azale. Uh, it's not a bad. I don't think it's a bad draft. It's a little all over the place, but it's not. It's not bad at all. I do think it's more of just unable to. What's the word? Unable to just get it going early with the Zenzao. The fights must have went a little sideways here. My guess is that top and mid had a lot of prio in this early and mid game and kind of shut down Zen in all these fights. It did look like bot lane did pretty decently in this one, at least, which you would kind of expect out of a strong little pressure lane like Caitlyn and Karma. Kind of impressive that they did it against Jin and Lux too, because Jin and Lux oftentimes do like fight back in that lane. I imagine that was a pretty volatile lane, but like very little deaths on both sides. So yeah, uh, poke. It must have been just a poke off and people barely dying. But yeah, not bad from either team here. I just think TPK had the better day in gameplay this time around. Draft went mostly about the same, slightly different bands and order and stuff, but without the entire little draft. I'm not really gonna comment a ton. This talent band's a little weird here. Same with the Fizz, but yeah, this is up to other teams to exploit at a DPK if they waste bands like that. But yeah, I don't like the bands, but I do like the comp they put together, and I did enjoy the gameplay I saw on the screen when I watched a little bit of that stream. So yeah, that's that first game. And now we're going over to Coachless Tyranny and White Lotus Wisteria here. This is the first look I get at at Coachless Tyranny. And yeah, the comp does look pretty good, pretty safe. Oh boy, Wisteria's comp is something else at the moment, though. Okay, not a huge fan of it. It's also, yeah, not a huge fan of Wisteria's comp in this game. I don't know if this was game one or two. I mean, the bot lane pairing's pretty strong, but it's again, it's not really going to do anything against Downfall and Romeo because Sivir's not bad into Ezreal because of the lane push and the spell shield kind of gets rid of a lot of Ezreal's uh, damage because it all is it's a lot of burst, so you can block that pretty easily if you know how to play Sivir. Plus the Braum being there as well blocks a lot of burst, so not really a good Ezreal game in this one. I imagine Ezreal was picked pretty early, and interestingly enough, they did take out two of the ADCs prior to that. So, and they were more of the on hit type of ADCs that would do a lot better against the Sivir. So that was a good read on Coachless Tyranny to kind of take this Sivir away because there's if you take away Caitlyn and Jinx, there's not like too many more things that can really punish Sivir super hard in lane. Those two picks, those two champion ADCs are one of the more punishing to play into Sivir. So I imagine the Sivir was a counter pick to those two bands, and then this Ezreal as well. The Rakan pairing, I do like that. I mean, Ezreal Rakan's pretty known and pretty good. Again, I don't really like Ezreal in this meta either, but it is what it is. This Silas, I'm really curious on when this Silas was picked. If this was like a response to Aurora. I've heard that lane's not bad, and it can get a lot of kills. From the or like Silas can kill Aurora. It's like a lot of the. It's definitely a volatile lane. That's just how Silas's matchups kind of are, because he has to get ahead early. And stealing Aurora R, not bad. You also have the Mumu R that you can steal. It's not bad either. Big impact R in the Braum as well. So there are some big impact R's here. Urgot R. I haven't really ever seen that interaction to be honest with you, but I I would think it's pretty OP as well on Silas, so not a bad ult there. Uh, yeah, I'm not. That's not really the part that I'm questioning about their draft because those ults are pretty good. Uh, the Mundo into okay, I think the Silas was definitely a counter to Aurora. Again, I would love to see the wool drafts on these, but you get what you get and you don't throw with it. The Silas seems like it would be a good into the Aurora. This seemed the Mundo seemed like a blind pick, and then the Urgot came out as a counter pick. If I'm wrong and we picked Mundo into Urgot, I'm not really sure how good of a matchup that is for Mundo. It doesn't seem great because Urgot does pretty well into a lot of the tanks. He's also pretty beefy. So yeah, not really sure. This was a good win by Coachless though. It seemed like it was just they have a really strong comp here, and their lanes made sense and were easy to execute. They just kind of get through the laning phase unscathed, which I mean, they all kind of play pretty safe early on, and I think the only way that White Lotus Wisteria in this game in particular wins is if they get ahead early on the Silas and the Wukong combination more so than anything else. I don't really see the Mundo ever doing a whole ton in this game because by the time he's online, there's a lot of stuff that he has to go through. Like, yeah, there's a lot of CC here. There's a lot of percent health damage. The Sivir probably has LDR by the time it matters, or like grievous wounds armor pen item. And then yeah, Urgot I think as the game progressively goes on gets even stronger. Bit of a scaler himself, and then has that early game uh, pressure you would want around the void grubs and everything. But yeah, it just seemed like a good draft and a good win for Coachless here. The bans and stuff, Lulu, Wei, and Volibear getting taken out makes sense. Getting him off Mord and Victor as well. So like they really went hard at these top and solo winners and took out what I imagine is two of their top picks, and then you took out that greedy Lulu. So this is a really good draft overall, a really good draft plan, regardless, because all five of those champions are really strong in IBSG more often times than not. Um, our red side, uh, the Nocturne, and it looks like we went after the Cho'Gath, or their top laner, pretty hard here as well. I'm sure it's fine. If you throw that many bot lane bans though, I would think this lane would have won a little bit better than it did, but they might have just been the better duo and or just had the better combo in this game. Yeah, I'm so about Wisteria in this draft as a whole. But this was a grade A for coachless. So let's go check out the second game real quick. Oh, we kind of drastically changed style. Got our jungler on a little bit something more aggressive early. Mid's about the same. Our bot lane kind of had found a different identity too. Okay. Okay. I see the problem. uh we picked Tristana. And yeah, that's pretty much why we lost this game, I think. I don't think Triss is very good in the meta right now. She hasn't been in a long time. Uh, I don't. It's not something I would. It's solo queue. I'm sure it's a little bit better because you can thrive off the chaos a little bit more. But in comp, I know it's really boring and a really based opinion, but like she's just not great. There's a reason she was a mid laner. You know, she's good in that solo lane 1v1 scenario. I don't really see her doing a whole lot outside of that. Like you are, but like when you're playing mid and then you get to split push later on in the game and you still have a secondary ADC and stuff like that. That's the reason why Trish was so good in pro play, and also was a could have been a flex pick, could have, but like 99% of the time it's going mid lane, right? It's like Corky. Um, yeah, Triss is only good mid lane. That's in my opinion, and even there, it's so nowadays. But yeah, so we have Viego and Zinzao. Zinzao does win this 1v1 pretty early if you get invades and if you have what's it called, Prio in all lanes, and it looks like you did get Prio in all lanes because I don't really know how Trist and Braum get Prio over Jinx and Poppy because whenever they try to engage, just Poppy is just disengaging the hell out of this, and like Jinx is pretty much getting untouched in this entire exchange. Like Jinx probably never eats a Braum stun in this lane, at least not easily or on accident or anything. Like, you know what I mean? It's not very easy for Braum in this lane. There, and when you're playing Triss and stuff, that's another thing. When you're playing in that 2v2 bot lane, you want to be able to engage and play aggressive because she needs to get ahead. If you are going to play Triss, she has to get ahead. And I don't think Brahm's the good pairing with that. Doesn't really like you would want like more of like a Leona or a Rel, and then you want something, and you kind of want it only to punish something greedy that the enemy team is doing. So it's more of a counter pick at the end of the day, if anything. But yeah, this Poppy coming out is just a big basically, what's the word? Cock blocked everything you want to do in the bot lane, even if she's not great in a Mordekaiser or Victor, and really not even too much Viego. Uh, it really did probably change how this bot lane was going to go, and that's supposed to be your almost your strong side when you're picking Tristana in that way. But yeah, Victor does get bullied out by the Syndra. Makes sense early. Um, the Cassante matchup versus Mord is a skill matchup, and it looks like the Cassante got the better of it. Makes sense. Champion is pretty broken at the moment. But yeah, it looks like they just had the weaker all around comp, and there was just no prio anywhere, and they kind of just snowballed this game through. I'm actually surprised this game took even longer the second time, or whatever number this game was. Uh, yeah, they just had the prio, and they had all the winning lanes. It seemed like also no flash on the Mordekaiser made him probably a really easy target. So I imagine Zinzao visited up there. They lost a lot of 2v2s. That's how I imagine this game kind of went. And then, yeah, mid lane can't do much when Syndra is just constantly shoving you in and having kill threat. You can't engage bot lane, and that's all Trist wants to do is engage and fight. But you can't because there's a Poppy. So I'm not a fan of this Wisteria draft either. Bans and stuff looks like they learned a little bit from game one. This was another good round of bans though too. All five of these champs are pretty strong and comp play. These bans seem like they're okay as well. If you can't do it with the Urgot, then you take it out. Same with the Aurora. So they must have felt this Aurora in game one was actually really good. But yeah, no, not bad. This is a good opening by Coach's Tyranny. You can tell they were well prepared for this one. And then our last matchup that's new is 4G Sports Vanguard versus Valhalla Valkyries. They have a new top laner. This is 4G Sports on top, and then Valhalla on bottom. So 36-minute game here. Looks like we just got really ahead bot lane is what it looks like. Yeah, this is a good lane for Jinx and Lulu. Not much that Varus and Renata can do in that lane. It's just gonna be snowballed eventually. And yeah, I don't even really know what to say about the rest of these lanes. They look kind of boring, more so or less. Cassante and Bessa is a bit interesting, but it's more of like an anime fight. Yeah, tank jungle matchup, not very enticing. So probably just came down to whoever's laners get lane prio, and it looks like Jinx and them had it the entire time. Yeah, nothing crazy here. I don't really particularly like either comp exceptionally well, but Forge did play this game a lot better by the looks of it, and they played more to their win con and had more tool. They drafted a tiny bit better. But yeah, bans not really gonna look at. They banned Time to Clown's Udyr, and then the Nocturne. We went hard at the mid laner here, Cheesecake, Caitlyn ban, blah blah blah. Nothing too interesting, honestly. Much closer in this game. Definitely one of Valhalla's like out of their four games, this one's probably the closest that they've played from the looks of it on paper. They actually had a gold lead when they lost, which is interesting. So we have another great bot lane pairing from Forge. They got Traxon on the Ashe and then Bamboo on the Seraphine. When we're getting to Kaisa Not though, I do like this counter. This should favor Kaisa not in this lane, even if it's this is still like a good utility lane though. Don't get me wrong. Like Ashe and Seraphine will just be good no matter what in pretty much every scenario. But in order to punish that, I think the Kaisa and the Nautilus is actually beautiful here. That's well done. Syndra and it looks like Aurelia mid. That looks spicy. It just didn't look like the Aurelia was able to get too much going, or it was just kind of a farm fest from the looks of it, with some minimal action. Probably when the junglers showed up. Time to Cloud going back on the Maokai after he gets the Nocturne and Udyr banned. It makes sense. They've got a lot of carries on this team. Tomorrow on the Mordekaiser into the Gnar. Not the greatest matchup you ever want against Mordekaiser or against Gnar. I imagine this is a blind pick and then the Gnar was a counter. I'd hope. Maybe they thought the Aurelia was going to go top and then they picked the Mord. I don't know. It almost would have been more interesting to put Wukong in the top lane for either one of those matchups because he does quite well into both. And then the more, and then drafting something else or just putting more jungle. Honestly, I don't think even more jungle is that crazy here. You're into a tank jungler. And he's not too bad in the jungle, or you can just pick something else. But I do like their draft overall. And it looked like Forge had a decent draft as well. So nothing crazy about this one. Nothing really too much to decipher. I don't have the little drafts. The Urgot got taken out again. We didn't play it the first game though. Interesting. Hmm. Looks like we held on to ADC. Looks like we didn't pick ADC till R4. It looks like if they were red side. I don't really even know if they were red side or blue side because it would always just show it the same color from the team that submitted it. But it looks like we got Traxton got to pick that ADC later in that second game. Yeah, nice. Good win from Forge. That puts them back in the mix here. It's crazy. Like they're just 500 right now, and they're out of. They would technically be out of the playoffs currently. It's kind of wild that you have this seventh spot right here on both respective sides, and then in the East, it's like it's basically a five-way tie for two of the spots. Yeah. So yeah, Valhalla, tough opening of the week. Let's see what they get in game 3. So they're gonna go against Battle Rift Assassins. That's actually could be a really good game for them. Battle Rift hasn't looked insane yet, and like I think a lot of people will agree that these two teams are more of like the either unknown or they're gonna take a bit of time to ramp up throughout the season. I think this is Valhalla's game that this will be their first win of the season in game 3. I'll definitely have that in my pick'ems over BRA. Let's see what they get after, if they can keep it going or not. They get Rat Tactics in week 4, so probably ends pretty quickly, but who knows? Rat Tactics did struggle mightily in their week 1 game, but they were playing a pretty good team and all in Esports Dynasty. Uh, so we can cover these other ones. Tyranny and Wisteria. Coach's Tyranny will take TPO. TPO's a very unknown. I don't really know how good they're going to be. I haven't really heard of many of their players at all. They compete in Titan Gold. I don't know how they're doing, but it should be a slightly better matchup for Tyranny, I think, than in their week 1. So slightly better team they're going to go against. And then Wisteria will go against Elegy. That actually should be a really good game because you don't really know how either of those teams are really. I really just want Wisteria, and even White Lotus is old. These drafts are a little weird. I think we just need to simplify them, dumb them down a little bit, and I think we're gonna be just fine. But yeah, we're just not playing strong stuff, and when we're picking things that have like a higher skill floor, we're not performing on them from the drafts I've seen from week one. But that could change. It's only 1 week. It's three different teams. Don't really know. Um, let's see how they approach the rest of the season on uh, who. But yeah, it should be a good one against Elegy. And then Keg Killers will be a real test for them to kind of break the mold. If they can go on a 2-win streak right here, they're kind of just back. They'll get a lot of respect if they can get 2 wins out of these next 2 weeks. Even if they have to go to 3 games in both, it'd be pretty impressive. It would greatly improve their playoff chances here down the road. And then the last two we're gonna look at DP Knights and Azael. DP Knights plays Oversoul Oasis. Another tough game. I know Azael didn't have their top laner in week one, but Oversoul Oasis should be at full strength and probably is a little bit better now that I've really kind of seen them a little bit. Like through week one, I would probably say OSO. It looks like like a more dominant team. Uh, but yeah, that should be a really good game between two heavy hitters from each of the divisions. This is probably the game of the week for me personally. I don't really see too many better games. Rivals and CKK will be pretty good. Azael and Arambe could be good. Yeah, everything else doesn't seem crazy good to watch. Uh, and then Azael. Where is Azael? Okay, yeah. You get Agra Harambe next week. Just need a 2 of this. Get back on track. You were a very hyped up team in the offseason coming in. You just need to get back on the horse, get some confidence back. You faced a really good team in week one. Let's go take down a middling tier team. This is probably a playoff team, nonetheless. I think Ag will be a playoff team. So let's go take care of business against Ag, um, which they did again. They did last season in the playoffs. So this is a familiar. These two teams are pretty familiar with each other. So you need to take care of that. And let's see, what's your next game in week 3? And then you got Forge Esports Vanguard, another one that's pretty much the exact same thing as Agri Probably they're probably more so of a middling playoff team. So get back on track, show them who's boss. You gotta get your street cred back. You know, everyone was hyping you up in the pick'ems. Everyone's pick'ems are in shambles. You gotta pick it up a little bit. All right, and to end off, we're just gonna kind of quickly run through the player stats real quick. They're all up to date currently from every game that has currently been played as of the middle of the day at 3 on March 4th here. Okay. So here's our top laners. We got Pasa and Raining as the top two. Like I said, small sample size. Pretty impressive that Nas has stayed up to the 5.4 KDA through the 2 series. So he's got a little bit more to him. Wildstar through 2 games. This should actually only be through 1 game. I can change this because they had a different top laner in the week before. So I'll definitely have to change that one. But yeah. Um yeah, they should be pretty good. The top laner pool does look a little bit better than it was last year. Some that really enjoy killing JFK, 30 kills here in 3 games. seemed like a pretty good indication of that. He's gonna fight a lot. Nas loves to fight. Fusion as well. Fusion had a great week one, but not so good of a week two against Nas. So we'll see how he kind of bounces back. But I still think Fusion should be one of the top laners in this league, especially against um like 90% of the league. He's a really good top laner, but he needs to figure out and draft what he's gonna play, not ego the the person he's against, and really hunker down and play for the team. Because if he's not playing well, they're not probably going to play well as a whole on JRCC. But yeah, you got coin flip down here. It was our first team top laner last season. Bit of a tough start this season. But yeah, nothing too more crazy here. I really like the 85% KP is kind of actually crazy by God sent Maddie. So I keep that up. That's really actually impressive. Wow, that is actually so much higher than everyone else too. Crazy. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't think these averages are correct yet. I think we're still working on it. But oh, they are maybe. We'll see. Junglers, Kappa had a great week one. Hoodie had a great week one. Jimmy. Uh, I'm the only one who's played two series. I think my KP is pretty low, if I'm being honest. Do have a lot of kills. K Dash had a great week one. Didn't have a as good of a week two. Had a really monster Lilia game, but uh, died a little bit more than you would like to see, and on his other games. So yeah, nothing crazy to look at here. Capo was at like a top for the KDA for a while last season in multiple roles that he was playing and multiple teams. He's got a really high KP. He matters a lot to this OSO squad. So we'll see how that goes. Hoodie also had a great week one as we can see. Time to Clown playing his role. Looks like he's getting a lot of tank time, so just a solid top laner here. Or jungler here. Yeah, nothing crazy. Soren is struggling though. Uh well that was just against Coachless Tyranny. It's still early. Heyday, I could say, is struggling because that is two series in a row. So could just be unlucky for Valhalla to have two tougher opponents right away, but only time will tell how tough those opponents really are. Yeah, I see. I don't know if these averages are correct because people are not averaging 11. Yeah, okay. Disregard these. Okay. Looks like Buckbee is our kill leader for now. And we've got some really high KDAs on a lot of different mid laners here. Next Cat, Liar, Manghao, Cookie. A lot of new faces to this league. Yeah, the closest you see from last season is Nicholas right here. Looks like he had a strong week one as well. Got lots of new faces. Ag Don't Eat Bees has to play better for Ag or Parambe to um, kind of come out and be that kind of team that we know they can be. And then Malbithus has the highest KP, along with Nyx. Nyx also has really high KP, but Malbithus only out of 12 KP was involved in 10. That's just how much White Lotus Black Rose struggled in week one. We'll see how this develops throughout the season if Malbithus is, more of that 1v9 carry for them or not. Grayson had a lot of assists. Lot of assists. We did play two extra games. But yeah, it does have a pretty good average there. Interesting, interesting. Zelmax struggling week one. another returner from last season, and Ray. So yeah, it's really interesting because these three right here, Zelmac, Renegade, and Ag, Donny Bees, were and even Nicholas, they were all getting some sort of votes for all pro status. So it's interesting to see that like none of them are even in the conversation now, but like I said, it is early. We'll see if they can kind of bounce back or if we have some new faces kind of taking over the league. It's not like I said, one week doesn't define the entire league. Here we got Astral on top, didn't die. I believe that's the only player in the league that didn't die. So congrats there. Lurka also had a strong week one. Downfall, Sorrow, Traxon through 5 games still has a 10 KDA and only 6 deaths. That's pretty impressive as well. Um, yeah, he's definitely not the reason that they probably have 2 losses, but uh, and the KP is pretty good actually. Yeah, I mean he's definitely not the reason. Looks like they play pretty safe in the bot lane and don't get snowballed over. So it'll be interesting to see if any bot lane duo that they go up against will be able to kind of break them down and make tracks an average, more than 1 death a game pretty much. Husky was around last season, pretty good as well. Yeah, lots of good stats from week one here. See if there's anything interesting here. Trey and their win only had a 37% KP. Kind of, that's pretty interesting. Really low. They played 3 games and only had 13 KP. Is that right? I'm sorry. Is that does not seem like it's right, but maybe it is. All right, that's 8, 9. Nope, that's 100% correct. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Only one series though, like I said. Well, we'll move on. Nothing too crazy. Got a couple week one winners here. Anyone who played 2 weeks. Helium Boom Boon's still up there. Dolo is also pretty up there for the after playing 2 series. Reximus had a good week one, kind of faltered a little bit in week two. Oh, the Azale support actually has a 92% KP. That's actually really interesting. Again, only in 13 KP total, but it is interesting. They only had 13 kills. We did look at this earlier, but yeah, fairly low death series. Kind of was expecting a tiny bit more blood because White Lotus Azale, at least White Lotus from last season, they kind of played a little more aggressive and like a little bit of a different style. And then this team also loved to fight. Some of the people that were on this team last season, they loved to fight and be more involved in that kind of stuff. But they definitely look like they've slowed down their pace, at least here in week one. Support being down here for White Lotus, Wisteria. If they only they've played, no, they haven't. No, it's just their first series. But yeah, it struggled in week one. Moosey as well. We'll see how the White Lotus teams kind of do in week two. They all seem to have struggled in the week one against potentially tougher matchups. AIE Dynasty is what White Lotus Black Rose gets. Probably another rough week for them if I had to guess. And then Azale has a really good chance to redeem themselves against a good Ag team. And then Wisteria as well against an LG team. So there's a lot of proving to go for White Lotus with just as an org in this week too. A lot on the wall for them. But yeah, it has been 45 minutes, and I've only talked about a couple of matchups here, so I am gonna call it here. If you want these videos to be a little bit more in depth, and like I can look at draft lulls, tell your captains to post them on here in the match results section so I can see them, and then it makes it a little bit more interesting for me instead of me having to guess. So, without further ado, have a good day, everybody, and good luck in your week 2 and 3 games.